Hello again, everybody. This is Dave Reynolds from the Peoria Journal-Star Sports Department. Welcome to another edition of the Journal-Star podcast. Our guest today from the Bloomington Pantagraph, my good friend Jim Benson. He's been the beat writer of the Illinois State Redbirds basketball team for how many years now?
Well, 2006 I started, so this will be my 12th season.
Okay. And you did Illinois before that,
I did Illinois for about 17 years before that.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay. So a veteran scribe in the college basketball wars. We're here today to discuss the upcoming college basketball season. First of all, before we get into the Valley, some shockwaves in the industry last week with the FBI announcement of the probe that they're doing, the investigation into irregularities, maybe if that's the best word. A lot of charges about shoe companies and financial advisors and some bad stuff going on in the industry. 10 arrests, I think, so far. The hint that more is to come. What's your initial reaction to what's going on?
My initial reaction, Dave, is I'm not surprised. I think everybody who kind of has been around the college basketball scene has kind of sensed something like this has been going on for a very long time. It isn't something that just popped up, 4 or 5 years ago. This has been going on for a long time. And it's a lot of coaches are applauding this right now, especially a lot of mid-major coaches. They're really been. They think they've been hampered a lot by schools, funneling illegal money to players and all that. This is a tip of an iceberg. I think this thing is going to have a lot of tentacles, and I don't think it's. I think there are some mid-major teams that are going to be affected too. Some teams that are kind of on the fringe that are trying. They'll be the ones that are trying to make their names. It won't be the mid-majors that are good. I don't think it. I think it'll be more the mid-majors that are, trying to make a name for themselves. But I think this is going to dog college basketball, not for this season, but for a long time. When the FBI gets involved, it's a lot different than the NCAA getting involved. The FBI really knows what they're doing. They have a lot of more people, I think, than the NCAA staff does, and I think this is going to be kind of put a cloud over college basketball this season, no doubt about it.
Yeah, subpoena power has a lot more weight behind it. Than
I think you're going to see some people ratting out other people so fast just to save their own skin. It's not even going to be funny.
Well, and I talked with one mid-major coach about this, and his take on it was a lot of these high-profile coaches don't really see what they're doing as wrong. They think it as it's a cost of doing business. The thinking is, well, the money's not coming from us. We're not paying these guys. It's coming indirectly, obviously, from the shoe companies. But I think it's just become so ingrained, maybe in some programs that they just don't think that there's any wrongdoing involved. Right,
yeah, you're right. That's probably true. They think that their neighbor's doing it over here, and if I don't do it, I'm going to be kind of left behind. And, you think about a guy like Thad Matta. I'm not sure, if he's involved in this at all. I don't think he is, but a guy like him loses his job because maybe he doesn't get the players that the guy next door is getting because he's, funneling some money to the kids and all that. So it's kind of a sad state. I think when they let the shoe companies get so involved and all this money being thrown around to the coaches and all that, that's just what started it. And this happened, 30 years ago. So, I mean, this is just a culmination of, them losing control, the colleges losing control basically over the programs.
And whether the Missouri Valley Conference schools are involved in this or not remains to be seen. My thinking is probably not, but who knows how deep this goes. But we'll just kind of use that as a segue into this season with the Valley. First of all, you're the author of the Street and Smith. I picked up a copy on my way in here today.
Thank you.
The Street and Smith edition of college basketball. A very complete report by you. A lot more than the Valley generally gets in these magazines. And let's just run through some of you pick Northern Iowa team to beat. I hardly disagree, but let's just discuss what you see in the Panthers and why you decided to pick them number one.
In the Valley, since I've been covering the Valley in 12 years, for the most part, and it's not always the case, I think Wichita State has shown us it's not always the case, but the teams with the most senior experience wins. It just it seemed like that always happens. Wichita obviously had talent that was probably off the charts compared to the other Valley teams. But you saw with Illinois State last year, they had 4 seniors, guys who had been in the program a long time. When I look at Northern Iowa, I see a team that really underachieved last year, but they have a lot of seniors. They have obviously Clint Carlson up front and Bennett Cook, 2 guys who have been in the program 4 and 5 years.
Yeah, good players.
Very good players. And then they have Wyatt Lojas back this year. Wyatt had to sit out last year. I think that was a lot to do with their record last year. They kind of missed him. Their guard play was a little spotty last year. I think him coming back gives them kind of a veteran presence in the backcourt, kind of a guy like a Bohannon type of guy, just kind of a calming influence on the team. And then also with their freshman point guard last year, he did not have a good year, Jajuan Mccloud. The things I have heard and read out of Northern Iowa this summer is that he's a totally different player. He shot the ball terribly last year. Teams almost backed off on him because they kind of daring him to shoot. I think a year under his belt, I think he's going to be kind of more at ease, calm, you know, and that's kind of some of the reasons why I think Northern Iowa is going to, and really I should say the main reason, I think Ben Jacobson is just one of the best coaches, not only in the Valley, but in the country. I think a guy who kind of gets his talent to play his system, and I just can't see them having 2 down years in a row. And with the senior experience this year, I just kind of give them a little bit of an edge.
Yeah, you make a good case for him, and Jake obviously we all respect, and you know, a great guy, has run that program, you know, so well for so many years. But I look at their talent this year, and I agree with you on Carlson and Cook. I mean, good front court players, which is important in the Valley. But I always harken back to the Valley being a guards league, and I look at their backcourt, and I'm just not that impressed. And maybe some of these new guys, you know, maybe the return of Lojas and Wensian, is that his name?
Yes.
Yeah, he was a junior college pickup. You know, maybe they'll put it together. I don't know. I just don't see it. But it's such a crazy conference this year. Who knows? I picked Missouri State to win. You agreed on paper they have the most talent in the league, but the game's not played on paper.
No, it is. And the thing that kind of always harkens back to me with Missouri State is they just seem to underachieve every year. I'm not sure what it is and all that. By far, they have the best talent in the league on paper. Alizé Johnson is by far the best player in the league. He's a guy who could be playing in the NBA. I think a 6'9" guy who's a stretch. I mean, those are the guys that, you know, the bigger programs get. And they have a lot of good wing players too and all that. They definitely should be the favorite. But I just kind of thought, you know, I thought for one of the reasons why I picked Northern Iowa, I thought, hey, everybody's going to pick Missouri State. I'm going to kind of go a little bit outside the box a little bit. But I definitely think Missouri State has the best talent in the league. Now let's see if they kind of can put it together what they haven't done in the past. And like you said, they tied for 7th place in the league last season with a lot of these guys.
Tied with Bradley.
With Bradley, yeah.
So, yeah, I thought long and hard before I picked them number one. I didn't want to do it, but I just couldn't find another team to put there. You know, you look at they seem to be deep. They seem to have, you know, players at every position. But if you look at their past record in the Valley, they've not had a winning season in the league since 2010-11, I think, when they won the
Lusk
conference.
has never had a winning record in the conference.
Yeah, so that says a lot right there. I mean, winning culture, as Northern Iowa has proven, can go a long way. Right.
And if Russo comes back and is kind of, you know, who knows what happened with him last year, they're kind of keeping it internally. If he comes back and is the leader that they expect him to be, then they're the best team in the league. And but if something happens there and he's not on the program and all that, then they have some problems.
And you picked your Redbirds number 3.
Now,
now we've heard lots of reports about, you know, obviously they've lost all those seniors. other kids that have not made it academically or injury. They seem to be a program that's a little bit struggling right now.
Right. Let me preface this by saying this story was written on July 15th. Okay. And part of the reason was because of Zach Copeland, the junior college guard from San Francisco. He was going to be a big-time scorer for them. And he is not eligible this season. He did not make the grades from junior college. He's actually still in Bloomington Normal now. He's actually working right now and taking a junior college math credit. And when he gets that, he's going to sign in December, but they're still going to sit him out the whole season. Okay. He was going to be a difference maker. 6'4" wing guy who could he had a scorer's mentality. I thought with him and Malik Yarborough and the freshman point guard Elijah Clarence, they think they got a steal with him. He's a 6'3", 6'4" point guard, left-handed. It seems like they get left-handers. I mean, that's all they have is left-handed guards in this program.
Clarence, the kid that just got hurt,
and he is the kid who just has a stretch fracture in his foot. So he's going to be out at least. Well, his status for the opener is kind of iffy. He's not going to be completely healthy, obviously, until the Valley season. Freshman point guards, they need the time and practice at the beginning of the season. That's a big loss. They are so thin right now as far as numbers. Yeah. They're one injury away from really being in the second division. So if I would have had to pick today, I probably would have picked Illinois State 4th or 5th.
Okay. You did pick Loyola 4th. Your former Illinois State coach, Porter Moser, has built a pretty good program.
He has, and I'm happy for Porter, a really good guy and all that, does things the right way. They got some veterans this season. They lost really a pretty good player, Milton Doyle. I think he's still in the NBA right now.
Hanging on there.
Still hanging on, so that's a big loss. Milton is one of those guys who kind of did a lot of everything. Can they replace him? And one thing about Loyola is always the size. They just never seem to have a lot of size inside. They're always playing a 6'3", 6'4" guy at power forward. Sure. But they got veteran guards. And like you had said before, usually in this league, veteran guards are the thing that win. They have Clayton Custer and they have Ben Richardson. Not only are these guys veteran guards, they played together in high school. So they know each other's moves and all that. I thought they played pretty well last year, actually. They're 8-10 in the Valley. They almost beat Illinois State at Illinois State last year. Richardson threw up about a 40-footer at the buzzer, and I think that game was overtime. That ball was 3/4 of the way down. I mean, if they win that game, Illinois State doesn't get a share of the league. I mean, that's how close I think Loyola was last year. I really like Dante Ingram. I think he's really going to be a star player in the league this year. So probably if I had to pick today, I would have probably picked Loyola 3rd.
Okay. I believe I picked him 2nd. So,
we're close there, huh? Where's Northern Iowa?
Down farther.
Okay.
6th, maybe.
Wow.
Yeah. Valparaiso, the new kid on the block, they replaced Wichita State in the league. A really solid program for a long time. They've been in the NCAA numerous times. They lost Alec Peters, our Washington kid. And they lost several other good players too, but good programs generally, kind of like Northern Iowa, they generally compete every year.
That's exactly right. They're kind of a Northern Iowa type of program. They kind of reload, get guys who kind of fit their system. Matt Lodge seems like he's kind of the same build as the Drews when they were coaching the team and all that. They are such an unknown. And to me, that was the hardest pick. Where to pick them? I don't know about you, but I never saw them play last year.
I just saw him in the NIT game.
Okay. And then that wasn't even obviously
and they didn't have Peters that night.
Right. So it seems to me that they have some pretty good guards. The two Canadians. Walker sounds like he's really a good player. They sound like they're really physical kind of types of guards. So it'll be interesting to see how they kind of fit in this equation. I know they have a couple Division I transfers too. Right. So I think they're a program that kind of gets guys like that a lot too. So I'm really interested in seeing. First of all, I'm interested in going up to the Arc, it's called, I guess. Right. I heard it's a pretty good home court atmosphere. Have you ever been there?
I've never been, but I've heard the same.
Right. So that'll be kind of cool and all that. And it'll save the companies money not having to travel to Wichita too. So all our companies like that. But it's going to be kind of interesting to see where they kind of fit into this equation. I'm not sure if any team if they have an advantage over the Valley teams, or I think scouting is so good anymore. Once everybody sees everybody, and especially once you play somebody the first time, I think that all kind of negates itself.
And I think generally they'll play a Valley team or two every year. I think they played Missouri State. And
I think
Indiana
State.
Indiana State, yeah.
Right. So so they kind of have a feel probably for what the Valley is like, and I think they were a great addition. I really think that they were the best of what the Valley could do.
Yeah, I agree. We move on. You got Southern Illinois, number 6. Barry's built a pretty good program there, I'd say.
I think he has. Obviously, he had a lot of obstacles early on that a lot of people didn't realize about all the academic stuff. It seems like they've kind of gotten that situated out now, but their natives are a little restless down there. You've heard that, obviously, when you've been down there. Kind of like the Missouri State fans. I mean, I think if there's two coaches who are maybe on the hot seat a little bit, it would be Paul Lusk and Barry a little bit. Southern had so much success all those years. Those people still remember it. It's still fresh in their mind, and they don't like where they've been the last several years. I think this is a very important year for Southern Illinois to kind of trend the right direction, and they have some good players. They got some good. Obviously, O'Brien was a really good Valley player. He's going to be a big loss. But I tell you, that Armand Fletcher, I've always been waiting for this guy just to kind of take off. 6'4" wing guy, can kind of do it all and all that. I agree. And I think they got Marcus Bartley too, and this guy, he might be the most important newcomer, JC transfer, whatever you want to say, in the league this season. 6'4" point guard. I remember seeing him. I saw him a lot in high school in the Big 12 from Decatur MacArthur. I know Illinois State really recruited him very hard. They wanted him. I saw Dan Muller and Dana Ford, who was on the staff at Illinois State. I saw them at a couple of MacArthur games. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of influence he has on their team. He played at St. Louis for a couple of years with Malik Yarborough, who's at Illinois State now. So Bartley could kind of make or break their team this year, I think.
And they got the big kid, Thick Bull, inside, who, really great defensive player. Yeah,
and he showed, like I said, some kind of flashes, too, offensively a little bit. They need him to become a little bit more of an offensive force down there. But he's a really good rim protector that they didn't have a lot of times early in Barry's tenure there.
And then we moved to Indiana State, number 7. They had a very disappointing season last year. I think a lot of us expected more, but they just didn't happen for them.
It must have been a chemistry or something. Something just didn't jive. Like I said in the story here, they beat Butler. Yeah. Number 15 in the country at the time in December, and I think all the Indiana State fans were kind of hyped up, thinking, we're gonna have a pretty good Valley season. We might not, challenge Wichita State or Illinois State, but we're going to be up there. And then that was kind of like the zenith of their year. They just kind of fell apart, and it's kind of hard to, I think Greg Lansing, who I think is one of the better coaches in the Valley. I think he gets the most out of his talent usually. He didn't, and he blames himself even for not. So what do they have? They have Brenton Scott, who's going to be one of the better players in the league. Yeah. So that's a good piece to have right away, and I think they've kind of filled in around him. I know Page is not on the team anymore, I don't think. So they kind of lost him. He was a veteran guy. But they're kind of a question mark this year, too. Sometimes when you don't think Indiana State's going to be good, they turn out to be good. And sometimes when you think they're going to be pretty decent, they go the other way. So they're kind of always a hard team for me to figure out.
And Bradley fans aren't going to like this. Oh. The Braves.
I thought I was actually kind of kind.
Well, the story's fine, but they're not going to like that number 8 in front of their name because it's been a long rebuild for the Braves, and this was kind of the year that this is year 3 of Brian Wardle's regime, and 5-27, 13-20. They finished strong last year. I think a lot of fans are thinking maybe this is the year that they move into that first division in the league. They've got everybody back, and a couple of solid returnees, or not returnees, but newcomers that I've seen who I think are going to help them. So I think they have a chance to move up.
I definitely do too. I think almost from about 4 to 8 or 9, you can almost just kind of throw them in a jar and just pick a number out of the hat. It wouldn't surprise me to see Bradley in the first division at all. I just kind of want to see them do it. You know what I'm saying? Sure. Obviously, they went from 5-27 to 13-12. and you see them every game. They made some great improvements. I saw it in the 2 games that Illinois State played them last year. I thought they were much improved. I think Brian Wardle's really a good coach. He did it the right way. I mean, you had to feel sorry for that guy, what he walked into. My gosh, I mean, it was just, you wouldn't wish that on your worst enemy.
No.
But he did it the right way. He kind of they cleaned house. They started from scratch, and now let's see what they have. Obviously, Darryl Brown was really a good player, and I think they have a couple other nice pieces to build around. And like Brian said too, they actually have 2 seniors this year. Is that right?
First time they've had senior for
Wow.
a while. Well, I guess Kadarrell Bell was a senior his first
Right.
year.
Okay.
But,
impactful seniors, maybe we should say.
He was the only. Yeah, right. He was the only one on that squad. So it's been a pretty young team for the last couple of years.
And like I say, they finished first division. That wouldn't surprise me in the least. I think he's doing everything the right way. And let's just see what they got. It's going to be a kind of a telling season for them. They need to make the next step forward. If they do finish 8th, I think a lot of people here are going to be kind of upset.
Yeah, I agree. I was at their first practice the other day, and probably the biggest thing I noticed is everybody's healthy. Everybody's bulked up from the summer,
Right.
and we always see that from programs.
Right.
Your kids are bulked up in September, and by the time February rolls around, they've lost 20 pounds. But I think that I talked to their weight coach, and he's convinced that he can keep the weight on them and keep them strong throughout the season. These kids are older, more mature. The freshmen are now juniors.
Right.
From those
big difference.
Yeah, their bodies look much different. And the kid Lukman Lundy, strange name, but I think he's going to help him a lot.
Okay.
He'll give. He has point guard skills. He can also score. So you'll see probably him and Brown on the floor a lot at the same time. I think he's not necessarily going to replace Darryl. I think they're going to be playing together a lot. And they've got other guards who can play, who showed last year. As freshman Nate Cannell and kids that made a difference. In the second half of the season when things start to improve. Koch Barr came on as the season went along. He's 20 pounds stronger this year. So I think they could get off to a good start in non-conference, and they have. When you look at their conference season, it's pretty suited for them to get off to a strong start there too, and that can make a lot of difference.
Getting confidence for a younger team early on, that could definitely happen. And that's always the thing about picking a league like a Valley. You have JC guys coming in who maybe more about them than I do, or have seen them maybe in the summer or something like that. And every team has those guys.
Yeah.
And how do they fit into the equation? It's just and then you have the transfers like Yarborough and Bartley. How do they fit in? That makes it so hard sometimes to pick a league like the Valley, where obviously the power conferences you kind of know who each team has, and even the newcomers, if they're 4 or 5 star recruits, you figure
Sure.
you can figure out pretty fast that these guys are going to contribute right away.
Right,
That's
right.
always the tough thing about the Valley.
Yep. And then we move on to Evansville. You've got a number 9, and it's really hard to imagine them moving up too much in the league. Obviously, Ryan Taylor he may lead the league in scoring.
Yes,
I mean, that kid
right.
can really get to the basket.
Yeah, exactly. And I think Gibson will be a lot better this season, a year removed from knee surgery. It always seems to be when somebody comes back from a knee surgery, it takes them a full year to kind of come back. They have Blake Simmons. Blake's kind of, a lot of people, he's kind of a vanilla player, but he's kind of a guy, kind of a glue type guy that every team kind of needs, and he's definitely going to help them a little bit, but I just don't see it with them this year. And maybe I'm wrong and all that, but Jalen Brown was and like you say, they always lose a big scorer, and it's just the next guy kind of steps in. But
Right.
I think they're at least kind of a year away from really kind of getting back in the upper division of the Valley.
And then number 10, Drake, new coach, Nico Medved. They pretty much have their whole team back, don't they? I mean, it's not much of a different look for them.
Yeah, but last year they were trying to really, when they changed coaches and Jeff Rutter came in, they really kind of went to the up-tempo type of thing. that worked for about 3 weeks, and then it kind of fell apart. And now Nico is kind of really preaching defense and all that. To me, that was the easiest pick. Is picking Drake last.
Yeah.
Even though they have a lot of guys back, and I really like Reed Timmer. I kind of feel sorry for that guy. I think on any other Valley team, he would get a lot more accolades than he has. I think he's a smart player. He's just been stuck in kind of a bad situation at Drake. So yeah, I don't hold out much hope for them. And Nico's already talking about if they don't play defense, they ain't got a chance. And I haven't seen them play much defense the last 3 years. So I don't know. We'll see. I think that's going to be kind of a major rebuild there too.
Right. And I guess if you look at the league overall, obviously Wichita State is gone. Creighton a few years ago as well. It's a different kind of league. It's it's going to be a lot tougher for the Valley to get a second NCAA team maybe than it used to be. Your take, I guess, on how the Valley fits into college basketball structure.
Yeah, this is kind of going to be a tough year, obviously. Like you say, unless some teams like a Northern Iowa, let's say, they play a pretty tough non-conference schedule. If they can win a couple of those and maybe get win the league championship, then go far in St. Louis and lose. That would be maybe the only way I could see the Valley getting a second team in this year. The big boys are making it harder for the little guys to get bids all the time. And Doug Elgin obviously cracked that nut about 10 years ago, and the Valley had all those teams in the tournament and did very well. I'm not sure how the Valley is going to get back to anything resembling that state. I don't think that's coming back as far as 2005, 2006. But I think the Valley can get to a position where they can maybe get 2 teams in a year. But scheduling is the key, and that's just not only scheduling. We talk about it every year. You got to win some of these games,
right?
And that's the Valley has not done in the last 3 or 4 years is just win any of these non-conference games. Where, my first couple of years in the league, the Valley were winning a lot of those games. They haven't been doing that, and it's not only just the middle to bottom tier; it's the upper tier hasn't been doing it. I know Illinois State last year. I'm fully convinced if Illinois State would have won that game at TCU in early December, a game I was there, they had every opportunity. They led most of that game, and they kind of frittered it away at the end. I think if they win that game, they would have been in the NCAA tournament. Those are the games you got to win to get an at-large bid. And Dan Muller even knew it last year. He knew that a game like that, and they had a couple other games. They lost a game at Tulsa. They just kind of kicked away at the end, too. Those games are the games that just really kill you come March. And even if you had a great season in the Valley like Illinois State had last year, you still have to win 1 or 2 of those non-conference games. And that's what the Valley has to start doing.
Still, it's a sad commentary. You can win 28 games and not make the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, it is. It is. But that tells you kind of the state of where it's at right now. If you don't win 1 or 2 of those games in November or December, doesn't matter if you're 17-1 in a league that many perceive as a pretty bad league. You're not going to make it to the dance.
Well, that wraps up our podcast for today. Our guest, Jim Benson, thank you for stopping
thanks for having me. This was fun.
You got to. It was nice of you to come all the way here from Bloomington, and we appreciate it.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Yep. And we'll look forward to seeing you this season. Well, I guess we'll see you at the Valley preseason ordeal.
3 weeks from today.
Gala.
Yeah, there you go.
And then, of course, when Illinois State and Bradley hook up on the court, Valentine's Day is one of those days.
Oh, boy. What a sweetheart of a game right there, huh?
Thanks again, Jim. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Dave.
So long for now.